You're welcome back. I promised you talk, and that's exactly what we're going to do. Our guest this morning, the Honourable Member of Parliament for Tamale Central Constituency and a ranking member on the Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee, Mr. Inusa Fuseni. And then also with us, Mr. Bernard Mona, National Chairman of the People's National Convention. Gentlemen, how nice to see you both. It's a pleasure.
Thank you. I don't see you for a very long time.
You have abandoned me, so.
That's what we do. We bring people together.
I only hear about him and...
I also read a lot about him.
His
in one of the writers I read about him, they said he was going to be the vice presidential candidate for the NDC.
Oh, really?
Maybe it's possible because my presidential candidate and leader of my party is ambassador at large.
At large.
That's the foot in the door, right?
but it's not a possibility.
Well, now, by the way, while we're at it, let's also say Mr. Inusa Fuseni is seeking to retire from Parliament. What a loss. But he bids Tamale Central farewell. I believe we have some images of that, do we? Right. Well, no, I think we're working on that. But Mr. Fuseni, this is a story that apparently was reported in the media that you are bidding Tamale Central farewell. Is this the case?
Oh, I think it's not a new story. The story broke out when I announced personally some time ago in June last year.
Yes.
After I had met my constituency executives and the aspirants who had contested the constituency elections, that I will be stepping down at the end of my term as the member of parliament for the constituency. And I had taken the decision to announce early for us to start the search party for a credible successor.
Yeah.
And just recently, I did one or two things in the constituency, and people thought that my announcement was a ruse. I mean, it was, and that they thought that I had done that as politicians do, so that I could come back with sympathy. And then so they came to me and said, "Look, we've seen you doing these things. Don't you think that?" And people are very happy about what you are doing. Don't you think that it's time to reconsider your decision? Then I reaffirmed my decision that I was going to move off legislative competitive elections and dedicate myself to the NDC, and particularly the campaign of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, and also to offer opportunity to the up-and-coming youth to step into my shoes. And that just made the headlines, and that's how it came.
I get it. I get it. I mean, your victory was a hard-won victory the last time. I mean, harder than it's been in the past. Is that part of the reason why you've...
My victory was not a hard one, but people don't understand the dynamics of the constituency. Tamale Central constituency is the only urban constituency in the hitherto 3 northern regions.
Yeah.
Now five northern regions. That is the only urban constituency. All others are peri-urban. And that's why when I was Deputy Minister for Energy at the Ministry of Energy, we didn't do rural electrification in the Tamale Central constituency because there's no village within the Tamale Central constituency. Because of that dynamics, you find a lot of vociferous people in the constituency. And people congregate. We have all the 2 markets, the big markets in Tamale Central. You have all the big mosques in Tamale Central. You have all the banks in Tamale Central. Everything happens in Tamale Central. So you will find that there is a lot of political activity within Tamale Central. And so, because the enlightened are also within the Tamale Central constituency. So every day you find vigorous debate. And people interpreted that to mean that it was a very difficult contest for me. I won by more than 12,000 votes difference.
That's true.
Yes.
Well, I guess the people of Tamale Central will certainly miss your presence at that level of politics. But who knows what's next? Maybe a presidential bid?
Oh, no. I simply...
That's all right.
There comes a time.
I was joking. Who knows? Who knows? Who knows what the future will bring? But I want us to get straight into our first issue because our head of a security desk, is currently up in the north and northeast regions regarding the situation with the Chokosis and the Konkombas in Tripoli. I want to start with you, Mr. Mona, really quickly get a brief comment from you on this. We'll talk more about it after Gifty, but just because we've heard a bit from Mr. Fuseni, a quick comment for you, from you about how this thing is all evolving in Tripoli.
It was former UN Secretary General Kofi Annan who said that it's not easy to say goodbye. But it appears as to Fuseni, it is easy to say goodbye. You recall the circumstances that actually took him to Parliament.
Yes.
It was a by-elections where a member of Parliament decided that he was no more going to be a member of Parliament for the NDC. And then he came in to fill the void.
Yeah.
Eventually he came. And I think that after 2.5 terms in office.
3.5.
3.5 terms. Time flies.
Yeah.
3.5 terms in office. He decides that he is quitting. Looking at him, it is not because he's old. It is not because some of the people going to contest, I do know that some of them may be older than him. But for him to say he wants to offer opportunity for up-and-coming ones is a great feat for somebody who thinks of his constituency and going forward.
Exit while the applause is allowed.
I think that there are few of such in our midst. Some of them announce, and when the time is coming, they find it difficult to exit.
Yeah.
I do not want to sit here to mention a number of names. People have stayed in Parliament and they have become Methuselahs in Parliament. They still want to be in Parliament.
Yeah.
But I think that what he's done is worth emulating. That look,
wonderful.
There is much more to be done, and I just want to congratulate you on that courage to say I am going, and in spite of pressure, you still insist that you are going off this.
Right. We're gonna have to quickly connect with Gifty Ando Apia now. She's been waiting for a while. Gifty, thanks for your time. Obviously, this matter has captured the nation's imagination. We are all very concerned because we know how this has transpired in the past. But at the moment, we have 2 confirmed dead, a number of them injured. And there is an uneasy calm. But you, I'm told, are at a school today where the BECs are about to be written. Tell us about the mood there today.
Schools. One of the things that we were hoping for was that this morning the schools would be opened. It's been opened, but it's not a full session. The school is not in full session. Essentially, what I think I'm seeing here is that the BEC candidates have come together and they've had some classes organized for them by the teachers here. I'll talk to them. I'll talk also to the head teacher to find out what this arrangement is all about. Tell us your name. What's your name?
My name is Kafid.
Sorry?
My name is Kojo Ibrahim Kafid.
Okay. You are going to write the BEC. How prepared are you?
We are prepared, but due to the war, last we were supposed to write our third mock, but due to that, we couldn't come to school. So we're at the house. So how to even take book and learn? It's even difficult. Sometimes you take a book to learn, then you hear a gunshot, then you don't put the book down. We can't learn because of that. So we are not all that prepared to write our BEC.
Let me talk to this lady here. This lady here is the school prefect. Her name is Roina too. And if you listen to radio, perhaps I think this morning she was on radio about her own thoughts. She said to me yesterday that she had fled from Tripoli to Tamale when the incident began. But she's here. Roina, how are you doing?
I'm fine, thank you.
Okay. So yesterday you were telling me that you left to Tamale. Why did you leave?
I left because this place was not a comfortable place to live.
When you say it was not comfortable, how do you mean?
Meaning the conflict came in day in and out, and then it was terrible this time around. That is why I left. We can hear a gunshot everywhere.
But now you are back here. Today I'm not hearing any gunshots. Yesterday when I spoke to your teachers, they were hoping that today nothing will happen so that they will open the school. And it looks like God has listened to all your prayers. So today nothing happened. You are in school today. What are you coming to do today?
Today we are looking at it if we can start the mock we were to write before the fight came.
Okay. Like I said, I'll be talking also to the head teacher. They have been organizing special classes for the student here because of the situation. And like I said, it's not a full class that's in session. And there are two different schools meeting here at the Tripoli EP Junior High School. Let me talk to another person. What's your name?
Please, my name is Mahama Samsiaya.
Okay. What do you how do you also feel about the BC? Are you well prepared for it now?
We are not well prepared because due to this conflict, it has affected us a lot.
When you were at home, were you able to learn something whilst you were all at home?
No, I was prepared. Then in the morning, that was on last week, we prepared that we are coming to write the mock. In the morning when we wake up to bath. Then I heard a gunshot. People were crying, running. Some people even tried to run to Togo due to that, so we couldn't come to school and come and learn.
But today you are here now. What is happening here today?
Today we thank the Almighty Allah for giving us this opportunity. I think we are here. If the teachers can give us the opportunity for us to start, we are prepared to start the mock.
These are the BEC candidates who are saying essentially that because of the conflict, I mean, they've lost, yesterday when I spoke to their teachers, they tell me that they've lost about almost a month of contact hours because, you know, they kept closing down the school. Anytime there is an outbreak of the conflict, they kept closing it down and then coming back. They're hoping to use the rest of the time, and they kept saying that if nothing happens, to study and prepare for the exams. But like I said, there's another person here, another school here. Come this way. Another school here, and I'm just going to find out what's your name and which school are you coming from?
I'm Afua Abigail, and I'm coming from Girls Model.
What was Girls Model, Tripoli Girls Model Junior High School? Why are you here today?
We are here to learn.
Why can't you learn in your own school?
Madam, because of the conflict, our madams have run away, so we can't get the key to open our door.
Your madams ran away?
Yes, madam.
And they took away the key?
Yes. And we can't get key to open our door. So we came to join and we'll learn.
Okay, so he's just telling me, like you're hearing, that the teachers, some of the teachers, and that's another thing that happened. We understand that the head teacher is here. I'll be talking to him briefly. But that's one thing that we've also heard. Well, what we've heard is that some of the teachers have left. A lot of the teachers, actually, they say, have left, especially those who are not indigents. They have left, and those who live in the villages, surrounding villages, when they hear that their villages have been attacked, they move away from Tripoli and go back to their village. The head teacher is here, and I'll speak to. Please come this way. Please tell us your name.
I'm Samuel Ajare.
Okay, so Samuel Ajare is the head teacher for the Tripoli EP Junior High School. Yesterday I spoke to you. You were hoping that today you opened the school. You've opened the school, but there's only 2 classes. What's happening here?
I think the children we are still waiting for them to report. The population is over 300 pupils, but as you can see, there are less than 150 that has reported. Most of them have run for refuge and other things. So we are hoping that as the days goes by, the population will pick up.
Do they know that the school have been opened?
Yeah, we announced to them that they should come.
But they have not showed up. I actually thought when I saw them that it was a special classes you were organizing for only the BEC candidates. Is that not so?
For the Form 3s, yes. They are here in their numbers. Almost all of them are here, except the other side who have run out of the district. For those who are supposed to be here, they are here. But for the Form 1s and Form 2s, the number is very scanty.
Then you also have another school joining the student here. Can you explain that arrangement?
Yes, we have the Tripoli Girls Model. They are also part. Unfortunately, most of their teachers are not around. So we decided to absorb them into our system so that the few teachers that I have here in this school, we can continue with the teaching and learning until their teachers return.
Where are their teachers?
When the whole thing started, I think some of them have to find some refuge outside the district.
Gifty Ando Apia there, speaking to the headmaster and some pupils and students, of the Tripoli EP Junior High School, where the BEC exams are to be written today, but many of the kids have not turned up for obvious reasons. Right, we'll keep an eye on that. But let's come back into the studio and talk a bit more about this Tripoli situation. There's so much more to it than meets the eye. We're going to start with you, Mr. Fuseni, and we want to get through this as quickly as possible, but I know that you know a lot about the history of this particular conflict.
Yes, and this conflict requires full time to deal with, and because the underlying tensions are not being addressed. And as at 1992, there were about 76 such conflicts in the whole of the country. It's a resource-related conflict, and the resource here is land. And you know, when we had resource abundance, you didn't have these conflicts. Now, there's pressure on the resources, and there's a pressure to sustainably use the resources. Now, because sustainability has not gotten to them yet, the getting into areas which they consider fertile, and they're coming into conflict with others who claim ownership. And the only way that they exert their right over the land is to fight to conquer the land. And so I think that basically the conflict started, this particular one started on the 31st of December 2018. Government went there, set up a committee under Patrick Achampong, Achampong, about a 4 or 5 member committee. The committee was to present its report on the 12th of February 2019. We are now in May. We're just ending May. We've not heard anything about the report. It is important that the government releases the report and so that we can know what steps, because we know exactly what is bringing about this conflict. Now, and also state institutions to get involved in this conflict, because the conflict is assuming some character in nature that clearly could consume the whole of northern regions. For a long time, these people have intermarried. They have not, in the past, seen any reason to fight. They are not fighting. What are the underlying causes? We need to understand and address those underlying causes. Now, I've heard people just say that where people should not transform their individual grievances against fellow individuals into community conflicts. That is so simplistic. Now, these communities, when you talk of Nadoni, when you talk of Kuli, when you talk of Takasu, these communities are homogeneous communities, homogeneously populated, where everybody is a relative of everybody. Yeah. And so when one of the community members is engaged in a conflict with a member of another community, it immediately becomes a community conflict. Yeah. Because they are related. They are not like the places where we come from, Cape Coast or Tamale Central, heterogeneous, where there are different tribes and different allegiances and groupings. And so conflicts of that nature, individual conflicts will still remain individual conflicts, but not at that level. So we need to understand exactly what has happened. And then political leaders, I've already said that government should look at the report and tell us exactly what is it, what are the underlying causes, what are the remote and immediate causes, and what remedial steps are being taken to address and find a lasting and permanent solution. I mean, our Peace Council should be very actively involved, even though a member of the Peace Council was part of the committee that was set up on the 31st of December. They themselves, on their own, should initiate action to ensure that they understand the problems confronting traditional communities in this country and how to nip problems of that nature in the bud. The chieftaincy institution, all this is about chieftaincy. Land is tied to chieftaincy. And so who are the rightful owners of land? And the Minister of Chieftaincy and the Chieftaincy Secretariat have been tasked by the Constitution to codify the laws of succession in this country. They could also add determining the traditional boundaries of the various jurisdictional areas of chiefs, so that we limit or nip in the bud. The Minister of Agric and the Savannah Agric Research Station, which incidentally is in the northern region, could help farmers develop sustainable means or ways of exploiting our limited natural resources. Now, if you, in the past, we used to learn in Agric, shifting Chieftain cultivation. So chieftain cultivation was necessary and profitable then because we had abundant land. Now you can't do chieftain cultivation. You can't. Where in the chieftain cultivation era, you used to do farming on 2-3 years on a piece of land, allow it to recover its nutrients, then you come back to it. Now, those lands have been taken over by buildings. And so the resource is gone. So you need to begin to think of how. And these people's lives depend entirely on the use of the land. Entirely.
Yeah.
And so if you deprive them of the use of land, it's almost a threat to their right to life. So what's a threat? Because you might be threatening their very subsistence. And if you threaten their very subsistence, they will fight back. But do we need to get there? No. I think that the state has a responsibility to put in place measures to ensure that people can still use their land in an environmentally sustainable manner, which land can feed them this generation and the generations to come. And that can be done. We have a lot of models all over the world where people have continuously farmed on the same piece of land for so many years. And so why don't we look at this possibility? And immediately we do so, this conflict will abate.
So this is a decades-old conflict, a problem your government had when they were in power as well. You were Minister for Lands and Natural Resources for some time. Which of these all very, very clever-sounding solutions did your government implement?
Well, the government then, and it was a continuing process. I won't say that it's only the NDC government that started it. You know, the LAP 1 and 2 were basically designed towards that, so that you could have traditional authorities to determine the exact boundaries of their land. Now, boundaries within traditional setups have been demarcated by a large tree or a flowing stream or a rock. So you have difficulty determining where it ends. Maybe what is just brought about this conflict is the no man's land, which is now claimed by two rival communities.
Yeah.
Okay. Now the two land secretariat of the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources has been in the process of establishing land secretariats within chieftaincy traditional areas, so that you could properly allocate land. Land is now a resource, has tremendous economic value. And Buzia's treatise said land belongs to the present generation, the past and future generation. Now, the present generation wants to consume the land and even deprive the future generation of the use of land because they know its economic importance. And I'm saying that under the NDC government, an attempt was done to ensure that land boundaries within traditional areas are settled to abate the conflicts that we are now seeing.
Would you say that attempt failed?
It's still ongoing.
So we're yet to see the results?
We're seeing the results in some areas. Now, if you just go to Kwabenya, there's a land secretariat that is working. Now, if someone is selling land to you in Kwabenya, which is two land, all you need to go is to go to the land chieftaincy secretariat, the land secretariat of the Kwabenya traditional area, and then they will verify whether or not the person who proposed to sell the land to you has title to the land.
So does that indicate that perhaps in areas like Tripoli, something else might be needed to solve that problem? Because obviously, what worked in Kwabenya has not worked for them.
Something definitely ought to be done. For one, we're not able to tell now whether it has even gotten to that area, whether the tentacles of the Stool Land Secretariat has gotten to them. Two, something definitely ought to be done because the fight is over the resources, and the resources are scarce, and people must be assured that they will have access to resources to be able to continue with their lifestyles.
Mr. Mona, you've had the dubious privilege of having observed this for many decades as it's continued. What's your sort of calm bystander's observation of how we've got here, and more importantly, how we can get out of it?
Well, I agree with him on some points that he has made, except to add that I recall that somewhere 2015, getting to 2016, we had the SADA, the Savannah Accelerated Development Authority, working with the chiefs and communities so that land in the area would be vested more or less under SADA supervision. By so doing, it was intended that anybody who wanted to get lands, because some people had already started acquiring lands, huge acreages of land in the northern parts of the country. And they will tell you they are coming to do farming, and they will not use it. And after a certain period, before you realize they are using it for estate and what have you. So SADA thought that as an institution knowledgeable, you come, you apply, you get to the people, SADA liaise with you, and at the end of the day, you take the land. They give you a certain period for which you should start developing the land. If you have not, you have breached the terms, and therefore the land reverts to the people so that you don't suffer these things. Unfortunately, it appears that because there was a change in government, that particular thing has been stalled. And because SADA and its authority, they were engaged with most of these communities, they were getting to understand that, look, even if you don't own the land, even if traditionally you did not have a right to the land, title to the land, you could use it under certain conditions, and then you know the original owners. Now, some of the difficulties that we have, which I keep insisting, is that beyond the shifting cultivation that Fuseni spoke about, is the fact that we come from the same lineage, okay? And by the fact that your father is the head of family, it means that rights and sale and other uses of the land is largely vested in your hands. So your father can decide to sell as much land as is possible, take care of you, and the rest of us will be staying and marking time in the hope that one of us or our parents will also get the chance to become a head of the family. Yeah. With such, it becomes difficult, because then it means that people have to find various ways to eliminate each other in terms of seniority to the family, so that they can also have a share, or you have to mark time. And sometimes it may not get to your turn. And yet, by tradition, you also have access and right to the land. So you see that even when you give land to B, another person will come and give the land to B. And then at the end of the day, you realize that there is conflict. Yeah. But, you know, land is a resource. We have not been able to manage it. My call is that state must participate. But in this recent conflict, there is some underlying current. You have the Minister for Defense, who unfortunately has not recognized that he's a Konkomba, and therefore he also belongs to a side that has an interest in this matter. He is rather trying to lead the process, and that is leading to lack of confidence, and there's no trust in the process, because people feel that he's protecting his own whilst supporting them to be able to unleash. So at this particular moment, either he is asked to stay away so that the processes can go on without his involvement, or Mr. President can move him from the security angle, take him to a different ministry where he will not have any access and control of security agencies in this country. Otherwise, why? The Trokosis and Chokosis, they will not have confidence in him. The Bazaars will not have confidence in him. The other tribes will not have confidence in him anytime he's leading the process, because they hold him in substation. A few days ago, you had somebody who was said to be a Konkomba assemblyman, who was seen giving arms to people. He is arrested, he is in police custody, and you hear the security agency saying that pressure from above, they want them to release that man. Who is that pressure from the above? All these things is helping to fuel, and the other people are now becoming, look, intransigent. You see that the security agencies, you are thinking that you are going to establish security posts there. Look, in between the communities, or in between the security posts and communities, there are a lot of places people can move. So establish a security post maybe at Joy FM. But before you can get to Malata Market, community says this, they will wreak havoc on each other. So my candid opinion is that either the Minister for Defense is removed from his office and put somewhere else, or they tell him to stay away. He should not get involved in this matter at all, because the suspicion is high. People think that he's a Konkomba, and therefore he cannot come to the table with the neutrality that is required in order to resolve this matter. Finally, let me say that, look, I believe fully that land ownership must not just be left in the hands of traditional authority. The state must take part in it, so that at any point in time, if there is going to be a use of that land, the state and the traditional authority should sit down and agree that this is the appropriate way to go. That way, these conflicts will not exist. Otherwise, the more people want land to use, right, and they have to go and see some feudal head, the troubles will come.
This is a resource problem that has now evolved into a security problem. And at the moment, the security problem is, engaging our attention. We do need to tackle the root cause, which is the resource problem. But while we're dealing with the security problem, here at JoyNews, we've declared a security week, because this is one of a number of security problems that the country appears to be dealing with at the same time. So we've got kidnappings going on. We've had a credible threat from the Salafi jihadists of Burkina Faso against churches and public gatherings. In addition to all that, we've got murders that are unsolved. We've got
threats on you as journalists.
Threats on journalists. So there are a number of security issues, including cyber threats, which are also being highlighted. So we've declared a security week, and we want to not just talk about the problem, but the solutions. So every day we're going to spend a bit of time on that. It's time for us to do it now, and I'm going to beg your indulgence, gentlemen, because it kind of revolves around our conversation as well. We're going to speak with Mr. Vladimir Enchidanso via Vladimir.
It's not Mr.
It's Doctor.
Doctor, forgive me. In fact, it might even be Professor.
He is a president.
Yeah, he's a...
You tell him I say Mr. President.
Mr. President. All right. Well, he can hear you. So, we're going to very quickly engage with him, learn a bit about some solutions around the threat from the Salafi jihadists and how all of us can be a part of the security solution. He's laughing very comfortably in his office right now. Prof, very nice to speak to you, and good morning to you. Apologies for getting your title and designation wrong, but it's good to see you. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome, Kojo. Thank you for having me, and hello to my very good friends over there, Bernard and Honorable Fuseni.
That's right.
And don't worry so much about titles. I'm also Kojo, and I would have preferred if you called me Kojo.
I'll bear that in mind.
But Prof, admit that you are the president. Otherwise, they'll think I'm lying.
I'm sure he knows what you're talking about. Now,
thank you, Bernard.
Prof, recently the Salafi jihadist threat was made public by Axis, an NGO that has been keeping an eye on the situation in that region. Of course, it was very troubling. The threat was quite explicit against churches and public gatherings. We here at JoyNews did a bit of an experiment to try and see how security-conscious Ghanaians are. We went to Accra Mall, we left a backpack. For 30 minutes, nobody saw it. And after that, when I engaged the people who were sitting around the backpack and still didn't see it, they didn't want to speak on camera. One of them in particular said he can't speak on camera because he belongs to national security. So, of course, it points out that as a people, we are not very security conscious. We don't quite pay attention to our surroundings and notice anomalies. But even worse, when we put the video out, there was a big backlash from the public, insisting that we should have gone to show the video to the security forces alone, and that by putting out the video on social media, we were informing the terrorists of our weakness, pretty much saying that we have no security, but we were safe in the fact that nobody knew we had no security. So I thought we should have a conversation with you, with your extensive experience, about why Ghanaians should even be security conscious in the first place. What role do we all have in keeping ourselves safe?
Thank you very much, Kojo. I think I would like to doff my hat for you for instituting this security week thing. The point is this: I've always been trumpeting and very hard that Ghanaians, we are not security conscious. And the point of threat or whatever is not here nor there. The point is a country's security awareness is very important in creating the situation where we know that we are building a security situation that is impregnable. You go to Israel and children from primary schools know exactly what to do when they see something untoward, when they hear something untoward, when they see something which is not normal. You go to several other places in Russia, France, everywhere, there is that security awareness. And so the experiment you made backfired because the people are not aware. They are in the comfort of their zones. I mean, Ghana is peaceful. We say Ghana is this, Ghana is that. And then they leave the security situation to the so-called security agencies alone. You said that it backfired. There was a backlash because people were angry that you even put it out there. That is indicative of the very fact that they don't care. But we need to be security conscious. Personal security, community security, national security. These are the three levels that we must make conscious effort to have our people understand. Your personal security, which is 90% your own. They say people are raped, they say people are knifed, they say people are torched, burglary and that kind of, that's your personal security. Of course, the security agencies would have their role to play. But then there is also the community kind of security, where all the members of the community have a duty to ensure the community is free of such infractions. And then we have national security, where we hazard the threat perception and then begin to build a security kind of defense against that threat horizon. So until we drum this very well, through things like what you are doing, the media, the school curriculum, the security agencies not being given that kind of secluded aura. The point is that in Ghana, the security agencies are hanging somewhere and the people are hanging somewhere. So there is a gap between security agencies and the people. And we believe that our security should be national security agencies, their duty, but we have no role to play. So until we do all these, we'll still have our security very much hiccuping.
Prof, you raised some very important points there, and the one that is occurring to me to expand a bit on is this concept of seclusion of our security services. They seem very separate from society, which might feed into people's reactions to our experiment, that go and tell them. It's their job to keep us safe. So go and tell them, don't tell us. Do you think it's time for us to revisit, for example, the conversation about police no longer being in barracks, but being amongst us in our communities?
Very well, yes, we have drummed that very much. I remember very well when the government tried to barracks the police somewhere on the Pram plains or whatever they call it. I think, is this the STX debacle or whatever it is? And I think I wrote an article condemning it. I said, modern policing is different from barracksing, that the police should be part of us. Because the police is nobody but me in another uniform. So until we have that synergy between the people and the police, we would still think that the police is hanging somewhere, they have to protect me, all I have to do is to be walking about without any consciousness. So we need to revisit that. Not only that, we need also to make sure that policing is people versus security. Sorry, people and security. The point is this, that the police cannot do any work if the people don't give them information. So that gap needs to be bridged. All the security agencies do not have to be in seclusion. But we have reached this point because invariably, security agencies seem to work for government of the day. It becomes regime security rather than national security. We need to break that jinx also.
Now, let's talk about personal and community security as well. The experiment demonstrated that people actually are not they don't feel a personal responsibility to secure their community. They don't feel a need to be looking out for anything untoward. But there is such a need. Can you explain to us the reason why in our current climate,
yes,
it is more important than ever for people to be vigilant?
In our climate today, it's more important than ever because we are in a century where I call the insecurity century. Because also that the global system is so anarchical that the fight between, or what I call the clash of civilizations, is now so prevalent that we are not going to see that freedom of everything now. ISIS may not attack Ghana, they may not come and blow up churches or whatever it is, but they can use Ghana as a platform for launching any other thing that they want, knowing very well Ghana is not security conscious. They could route monies here, money laundering, they could route their arms through here, through gun running, without attacking Ghana. It doesn't mean that we are safe. So the question is that we need necessarily to be security conscious by really raising the question a little ante, in the sense that the media, schools, government policies must be geared towards a situation where we all are aware that something today is very important to look at. That is terrorism, that is indiscipline, etc. So in some places, the laws are so strict that even the people are bearing the brunt of fighting terrorism. But we are so free. We want to do anything we want and wanting the security agencies to take care of whatever we're doing. So that personal security, can we be drumming that? I think in my old CPP days, the ISD, the Information Services Department vehicles, would have been part of this crusade, going to villages, going to schools, going to show films about terrorism and whatnot, and inculcating into the people, or putting it in their minds that there is something brewing all over the world, and that we must be aware. Besides, the schools would have been doing things about terrorism. I don't think schools are now being taught what terrorism is all about and what conflicts really engender. Thirdly, I think the media is more interested in something else other than the current problem that we have in the world. We are not debating the issues. We are not taking them on. And I drop my hat for Joy for taking the lead. I think there shouldn't be any day that we shouldn't be talking about terrorism or showing what is happening in other places and how other people are working against it. So I strongly suspect that we've come to the juncture where now we have to do what the CPP would have done. I'm not doing politics. But at that point in the 60s, anytime there is an issue, global issue, we saw the ISD vehicles going to the villages, explaining why government cannot do this, should do this, explaining why people should do A, B, C. I think I was very young and I saw that. Can we rekindle that? I think my friend Kojo Opon Kroma Honorable should be able to now start something to create the awareness all over the country.
Right, and those are some great recommendations. The next part of our conversation was going to be about specific tips on how people can spot suspicious packages and so forth. But we're going to put that to tomorrow so that we can spend some time with you on that, Dr. Vladimir Nchidanso. But this is where we'll bring today's Security Week segment to a close. We appreciate the awareness that you've created, a lot to think about as we get prepared for tomorrow's segment. Once again, Professor Vladimir Nchidanso, we can't thank you enough for your time with us. We appreciate it. And of course, that was Professor Vladimir Nchidanso speaking to us from his office as part of our Security Week. We'll continue with programming of this nature all week while we raise the consciousness of the people of Ghana about their own security. Gentlemen, thank you very much for staying with us through that. Of course, what's happening in Tripoli is just another aspect of our security.
Just a little bite on this. I think that one of the ways to make people even more security conscious is that in the past, one of the modules under the National Service Scheme was that you went through some 3 to 6 months military training.
Yeah.
Most of us went through that training, and I don't know how come that has stopped, because 3 months intensive military training guided you not only on security tips, but it also impacted a certain level of discipline and in many of our young people, and gave them a certain direction in life, after which you were then posted to whichever institution. The other thing that I just wanted, maybe some of the suggestions he made may now be outmoded. Because if people really want to attack you, they are looking for places where you are guarded. Yeah. And so if you take the information van and you are in communities and people are guarded, that could also become a source of attack. So what
would be a better way?
I just think that, look, every one of us must be schooled in some security things. As you said, we must be able to identify suspicious things. I wonder, whether as you woke up this morning, you went around your house to check whether there is anything around your house.
It's a very fair point.
You understand?
It's a very fair
I have said this time without number. Many of us, for more than weeks, we don't even go around our own houses where we stay. We don't know what is even at our window to check whether we are safe or not. And so it is important. I go to places, and the next time I pass there and I see something, even if I see a cable running, I would ask you, are you aware that there is a cable here? Just for you to seek explanation, because people can tap into. So the little that I can do, but I'm just saying this, that look, even for each and every one, when you get up, at least twice in a week, you should go around your own house to check and see that, look, everything is still in order.
Absolutely. And it's fascinating that today we have people joining national security after 3 weeks of training, when in the past 3 months was mandatory. I'll give you a minute just to be fair to you, Mr. Fuseni.
Briefly on your shock that Ghanaians were not aware and were not security conscious. That is to be expected. The security is the preserve of government. It's not individuals. And so government, proactive security intelligence gathering requires that government is always ahead of the criminals, so that government can preempt their actions. Now, where countries have not experienced security challenges, their citizens tend to be indolent, they're not vigilant. And even where governments or people have experienced security challenges for a long time, and there's some return of peace, they also go into the comfort zone, the state in which they are relaxed. And that's what happened in Sri Lanka. After so many years, Sri Lanka could not have experienced the kind of bombing that they witnessed just recently. But because the conflict ended, and then there was some guarantee of peace, and then everybody went into his comfort zone, they were caught unawares. That is why every nation defines and reacts to security threats based on their own appreciation of what the dangers that pose to them. Okay? Now, in today's Ghana and West Africa, and particularly in Africa, and more particularly in the Sahel region, nations, about 5 countries have been put together by the UN. They are cooperating to ensure that terrorism does not have a foothold in the Maghreb region. Now, we have signed a military pact with the Americans. It's not because of the interests of Ghanaians. Americans were caught pants down when they were struck on the 11th of September. That was the first time ever that Americans were confronted on their own territory. Because America had always fought the terrorists outside their territory. And that was a very good strategy for them. But they were shocked because they never thought that terrorism could reach them where they were. So clearly, and now...
So if the security of the nation is the preserve of the government, should government not at this point be employing as one of its strategies the education of the people, bearing in mind that there are examples of other countries to learn from? You know, the whole thing about somebody's beard is on fire.
So government can then say, look, not Joy FM. Government cannot say, look, Joy FM, we are going to design a program for you, and we want you. Government did not tell you that we are being confronted with evident security threat.
Exactly.
But this is what we want you to be doing for the next few days for us.
Yeah.
Okay, Joy FM, can you be going towards the Bolgatanga to see how many people are crossing the borders and what so that you are interviewing the people.
Absolutely.
You are helping. Taxi drivers. How many people are you picking from the airports? How are they? Where are you sending them? And those it's government's responsibility to do that and get the people involved.
Point made. Thank you very much for that, both of you. Let's spend the rest of our time on this other very important issue, and it's the Office of the Special Prosecutor.
Yes.
And over the past few weeks, several things have come up regarding that office. First, there was a lot of pressure on the office to tell us what they've been doing. It's been 15 months since the special prosecutor was appointed, and the law says every 6 months he should be updating the country. 15 months, no update yet. There were questions about what was going on there, whether the location, office, so forth. A lot of pressure. And then JoyNews came out with a list, 26 cases, one of them actually resolved, leaving 25 cases that were of interest to the Office of the Special Prosecutor. We noticed a great number of these cases, including 2 obstruction cases, were to do with Mr. Mahama Ayariga. Now we know that just last week, one more case was brought to the court. There was one before, now there's another. So 2 cases that we are aware of are currently in court. Both of them to do with Mahama Ayariga. The first one was an alleged procurement breach regarding ambulances and the Boku Municipal Assembly and Health Directorate. Mahama Ayariga and 6 others were the respondents for that case. That was already in court by the time this list became public. And then just last week, we heard that a case of tax evasion is also being brought against Mr. Mahama Ayariga. And yeah, that is where we are today. 2 cases in court out of 25 that we know the office was interested in. And, well, the controversy continues. While all of this work is going on, 2 members of staff from that same office were investigated for stealing fuel, using their public office to obtain fuel illegally. So that is corruption in the Office of the Special Prosecutor. And neither of them has been prosecuted yet. One of them was returned to the office from whence he was seconded. The other one remains at post. And somebody has been suspended for allegedly being the leak at the Office of the Special Prosecutor. But ironically, the letter announcing the suspension was also leaked. So I wonder whether the office has found their leak yet. Gentlemen, I'll give you an opportunity to go on this one. And I think I'll start with you, Mr. Mona.
Well, it's amazing because from the inception, I have been one of the people who had said that we had sufficient institutions to deal with any issue of financial impropriety, economic, social, or any other impropriety in our society, and that we didn't need a different entity that becomes also a siphon of resources on its own.
180 million.
Many did not listen to me. At the time, I cited the then prosecutor in Kenya, Moswaku, and you can check that in some instances, the person you put there as the person to deal with special prosecution, corruption, is even the most corrupt, because that person can overnight become richer than the state, because you are talking about billions of fraud issues. And behind the scene, he's the one to lead the prosecution. Yeah. And so you could see that independently they can come and say that there is no case against this institution, and that will end it because you have so much empowered them. All that fell on deaf ears because our government was intransigent to wise counsel. They set up the Office of the Special Prosecutor, whose functions are almost in conflict with that of the Attorney General and Minister for Justice. Because everything the Special Prosecutor has to do, the Attorney General and Minister for Justice is mandated to do so.
But you recognize there are difficulties in carrying out those aspects of their mandate because they are part of government.
So it is difficult because the Special Prosecutor is even appointed the same way as the Attorney General is appointed. So you must listen to the appointing authority.
But we're told they are independent of that authority when it comes to choice of cases.
That is the problem, because the first case that was reported to the special prosecutor has to do with the contaminated 5 million liters
the
of
first
water.
petition they received.
They received. That was the one. In fact, just as soon as the office was created and then Martin Amidu was approved by Parliament and confirmed by the President, that was the big case that went there. Up to date, no one has heard anything about that case. It's past 6 months according to your rules. No one has heard what they have done about that particular case. Only for the special prosecutor to now be going on chasing things that they think have come to them later. I thought that in matters like this, it will be the FIFO method, first in, first out. But if you have to wait and there's no even method, whether it is last in, first out, or whichever method you want to apply. So in this instance...
Sorry, just an update on that particular case, because it was the first. The current status of that case is that it is yet to be assigned for investigation, according to us.
So this is the first case, and yet you have not assigned it for investigations to go into the merit or otherwise of the matter before you. So at the end of the day, I want to go to the second issue that they took to court without,
tax evasion.
Yeah, without going into the merit. My understanding and readings is that when you import vehicles, you don't go to the port to clear them. You have a clearing agent. So that clearing agent goes there. They will check the duty that you are supposed to pay. I'm told that the initial duty was 36,000.
Yeah.
And subsequently, the agent came back and said there was an error. And because of the error, it's now at 6,000. The person who is the importer now pays the 6,000. Later, you come and check and realize that he should have paid 36,000, but he pays 6,000. The receiving authority at the port, they receive the 6,000 and allow the goods to clear. Who has committed a wrong?
You're sure you're not going into the merits?
No, I'm not going to the merit. But who has committed the wrong? Because the importer, could not have gone to the port to go and retrieve your items by force just on paying the 6,000. It means that some people went through the documentations and realized that no, you have satisfied what the law requires of you, and then they released your items to you.
Or somebody colluded.
Somebody would have colluded with the authority
to commit corruption.
To commit that. So if you are taking me, whose duty is just to pay what I have been brought, I have been given, then there is something there that I think that we need to go into. But you see...
Right. Let's very quickly take the thoughts of Mr. Fuseni, because our time is running out and I don't want to leave him without taking a bite.
Honestly, we had to labor to put together a legal framework that assured the people of this country that we were interested in tackling the canker of corruption. We had appreciated the conflict, the apparent conflict between the establishment of the office and the performance of the functions of the Attorney General as given her under the Constitution, Article 88 of the Constitution. But we labored and we succeeded. So far, the only challenge to the establishment of the office of the special prosecutor is to the person himself and not the office on his age, by reason of the fact that the special prosecutor's office is a public office.
Yeah.
Now, Bayerga's case raises very interesting issues. We are in very interesting times. And the first matter clearly is at what point does an importer pay tax? It's when it is communicated to him that this is the tax allowable on the vehicle. So if a tax paid turns out to be not the correct evaluation, who becomes responsible? That's why I say it's interesting. And we also know that when you fail, when you clear your vehicle on tax exemption at the DVLA and sells it out at the DVLA before the vehicle is registered, you need to pay the appropriate tax on the vehicle. And that's what is common in all diplomatic missions. If you buy a vehicle for a diplomatic mission, or a former MP, or an MP, sitting MP, before you transfer, at the transfer point, that tax on the vehicle, you must show evidence of payment of tax on the vehicle. So that's why this case is quite interesting. So we'll watch it carefully and see how it
unfolds.
But the point that I just wanted to conclude on was that if there is any tax evasion, you notify the person and ask him to come and make up for his shortfall.
That is what we've seen happen historically.
Nigeria himself has said that he has paid the entire tax on the vehicle. The vehicle, 3 vehicles he brought before he transferred, and that he's still, by law, permitted to use the 80,000 to bring in a vehicle and then take advantage of the tax
waiver. All right. Well, thank you both for your time on that particular one. This is a case that we'll obviously keep very close attention on and bring you all the details. But thank you both so much for your time with us. We appreciate it, as always. Right, Showbiz comes up next, thanks to Awake Purified Water. And, of course, Becky and the team have put together all the stories. We'll see who, I think Seiram will be bringing us all of the details right after this.